G'day there guys, Markee here, and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the Asshole? Let's go. Am I the asshole for calling out my mother-in-law at her daughter's memorial service for implying her daughter's death was sadder because she wanted children? My 26 male, wife, 26 females, younger sister, 23 female, passed away unexpectedly. It was shocking for all of us, and I've just been trying to be supportive while processing my own grief. At her memorial service, I overheard a relative, who had lost her only child, tell my mother-in-law that while my sister-in-law's death was tragic, at least she had another child. My mother-in-law tried to explain that that wasn't any consolation since her daughters were both unique individuals, but then they got into a borderline argument about it. My mother-in-law then tried to put it to rest by saying, in any case, even if I still have OP's wife, sister-in-law was my only hope for having grandchildren since OP's wife doesn't want any, so I will always be mourning that missed possibility. For context, my wife and I aren't even child-free. We just don't want to have children until at least our late 30s. It has been a very sore point for her mother, who has made it very clear to everyone that she believes that we are lying about delaying it just to avoid discussing it with her. At that point, I interrupted and said it's a very insensitive thing to say about both her daughters, to reduce one's entire value to her openness towards having children and dismiss another's value for not having children in the near future. My mother-in-law seemed to not even consider my point, and was mostly just incensed about how I could even comfort her at a time like this. She finally told me she's not in any state to deal with this, and left. I later told my wife about it, and she said that even if I was right, then wasn't the time to bring it up, and that she doesn't have any emotional capacity to even care about it at the moment. I feel really guilty for being responsible for creating some new drama right now, but I also think that what my mother-in-law said was highly dismissive, and that I had to defend my wife right there. Now in the comments, you're the asshole. Your wife is right. This wasn't the time or place to have this conversation. Your mother-in-law is dealing with incomprehensible grief and isn't in a position to have perfect feelings about things, and while her comments were ugly and mean-spirited, confronting her at her dead daughter's memorial service was comically inappropriate. You should apologize. And mother-in-law was poked first by the dumb, well, at least you have another living child comment. That was a stupid and cruel thing to say at someone's child's funeral. So mother-in-law has the additional mitigation of trying to defend herself against that hurtful comment. This conversation never should have happened in the first place. Grief is not a competition, and the person who said that is just as big of an asshole as OP. You're the asshole, and the relative who started the conversation is a massive asshole. And who the hell says, well, you lost one, but hey, at least you've got another? What? That is so insane. And then for you to be rude to her about your opinions on having children while she's mourning the death of her child? She is absolutely allowed to mourn the fact that she will never get grandchildren from her younger daughter. Who cares if she made some passing comment about not having grandkids? She is allowed to mourn not getting grandkids just as much as you are allowed to not have children. You should have bit your tongue. You were way out of line, and so was the relative. You're the asshole. Timing of your comments is really shitty, and you should have just held off commenting on this until more appropriate time. Yikes. While I agree with you on what your mother-in-law said, the memorial service was not the time to confront her about it. You're the asshole for that, but not for wanting to stand up for your wife. Nah, I kinda think it's fair for her to mourn the fact that she's not having grandkids, and grief makes you say stupid things. There is no correct time to confront her because she's allowed to be sad over things. It'd be shittier if she was putting pressure on them, and she's not saying that one sister was worth more than another, just that she probably won't have grandkids. And now onto the update. I should probably explain why I didn't respond to any of the comments. It dawned on me immediately just how awful I was to say what I did, and that I continued thinking I could be right in some twisted way till I saw the answers here. I told my wife straight away how sorry I was for adding to her grief when it should be my duty to be by her side through it. I waited till now to apologize to my mother-in-law. I told her I failed her in every way, by not standing up for her when she was told a massively insensitive thing, by misunderstanding what she actually meant, and by causing her that kind of hurt when she hadn't even begun to process her mourning, and affirmed that she is the best mother both her daughters could have asked for. We cried together for some time. We talked a lot about my sister-in-law, her life, how difficult and different it's going to be. We had a frank conversation about the future. She said she's sorry how her comment might have come off as, but she really felt upset deep down because she might not get to experience being a grandmother. I didn't really know if it was the right thing to say at the time, but I told her that we both really do want kids, but we want to be richer and in better places in our careers so we won't have to struggle with balancing parenthood with work and can spend time with them. I even told her that we just started saving up for freezing embryos and are going to get it done next year. She seemed to be genuinely convinced and comforted and said that she's happy that we had that talk. I'm really grateful for this sub. Without it, I probably would have just sat on my shitty opinions indefinitely until people forgot about it. I wish I didn't need to be told what an asshole I was. Now in the comments, it takes a massive amount of self-awareness to not only realize you were wrong, but also to own up to it with no excuses to the people that you hurt. It sounds like your mother-in-law was comforted by hearing that you and your wife had plans in the future for having kids. I know we are strangers, but damn, I'm proud of you, OP. I agree. It sounds like the whole ordeal may actually end up strengthening OP's relationship with mother-in-law, which is probably good for the both of them given the circumstances. Also, it sounds like mother-in-law having hope for grandkids again might help at least relieve a small amount of massive grief that she is facing. So happy that you recognized and apologized for your poor behavior. Fingers crossed that all goes well for you and your wife on your future fertility journey. Also, very sorry for the loss of your sister-in-law, but thankful that your family is coming together to support one another. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for dropping my freeloading brother off at our aunt's house after she called and scolded me for evicting him? My older brother, OB, is a bit of a bum. It's mean to say, but it's true. He can never hang on to a job for longer than a couple of years max, and when he inevitably loses whatever job he had, he starts mooching off of family and friends until he can find another job months later. This entails him freeloading at their place, eating their food, using their stuff, etc. He's lost friends because of how long he bummed off of them, and I don't blame them for cutting him off. Well, this last time he lost his job, he went to our parents, but they didn't have room because they were letting our eldest brother's family stay with them after he and sister-in-law lost their jobs out of nowhere within the same month. EB's entire crew was laid off with zero warning, and sister-in-law's work burned down, and they couldn't afford the home they were renting anymore. So older brother was pretty much up a creek without a paddle. So our parents, aunt, and uncle all started calling me, asking if I'd take him in just long enough so that he could get on his feet again. I stupidly let myself feel bad for him and said okay, but he only had a few months to get another job or he was out on the street. They all said of course, and so he came to stay with me. And it was a nightmare. He's a slob. He never washes dishes, never washes his clothes, and eats pretty much whatever he wants. I guess since I'm his little sister, he figured he could ignore me saying to get his crap together. Well, after 6 months I told him he had to go, and I gave him a couple of weeks to find somewhere else. Well, it seems he called our parents and cried about me wanting to kick him out, and they told him he knew he couldn't stay forever, but they also of course called my aunts and uncle and told them all about it. And my busybody aunt called me and scolded me for being cruel to my brother and abandoning family when they need help. I let her talk and finally said she was right. Helping family was important, and I'm glad she showed me that. She seemed glad that I understood the right thing to do before hanging up. So I followed her advice and packed my brother up and drove him to her house. I couldn't take care of him anymore. He was running all my bills up, but my aunt made a good point. Families should help each other. So I dropped him off. She has rooms since all her kids moved out and then left. But I wasn't even halfway home before I was getting multiple calls from my parents and aunt. Parents were demanding to know why our aunt was blowing up their phones, and aunt was leaving voicemails shouting at me to come back and get my brother. I explained to my parents, and they said that it was a good idea since aunt sounded like she wanted to help, but my aunt called me an asshole and said that she didn't want my brother there. And when I told her family helps each other, she called me an expletive. Last I checked, he is still living with her. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, not the asshole. Congratulations, you did exactly what Reddit always advises people in your situation. If they think helping family is so important, they can take care of the freeloading relative. Good job for being kind enough to give him a chance, and for being strong enough to boot him out when you were fed up. And OP says, I'm pretty new to Reddit, so to hear that family being obnoxious like mine is common makes me sorta sad. Not the asshole. Yes! Finally, someone on this subreddit took action and dropped the mooch off to the family member who loves to scold but not help. You are absolutely iconic, and I wish I could give you all the awards. And your parents agreed that the nosy aunt, who should have minded her damn business, should help? Double iconic. This is the best thing I've read today. What a queen. Yes, you are, ma'am. And OP says, my aunt gets in everyone's business, not just mine. She's stuck her nose in my parents' business more than once, so I think that they were happy that she had to help for once. You are not the asshole. You are amazing. High five. Sorry for lack of replies. I answered what ones I could before I left for work, and when I got back, I had far too many to answer. Lots of people have been asking similar questions, so I thought answering them here once would be helpful. 1. My brother doesn't work menial jobs. He's not just hopping from one minimum wage job to another, he is working very good paying jobs, like electronic repair, automotive maintenance, etc. He is very skilled but lazy. 2. No, my aunt hasn't spoken to me since she called me an expletive and then hung up on me. 3. My brother has only been with her about 3-ish weeks. He stayed with me for 6 to 7 months. 4. My brother was upset I was kicking him out initially, but in a better mood when he realized I had another place lined up for him to stay. Not sure how they're doing together, since I haven't talked to either since after I dropped him off. And 5. No, my aunt isn't married anymore. Her and my uncle got divorced and he lives with his new wife. But I heard from Dad that he thought that this was all hilarious. Edit 2, to everyone who has been hounding me through PM and in the comments, my brother isn't, last time we checked, neurodivergent, nor does he have ADD or ADHD. Our mum took him to the doctor more than once around when he was 15 to 17, when his behavior was at its worst. According to our mum, the doctors all said that he was perfectly healthy and fine, though they, the doctors, suggested he wasn't being mentally stimulated enough, aka he was bored? Mum wanted to take him to see other doctors, but by then, he had turned 18 and refused to go, and she couldn't force him. Also, it's been suggested that he maybe see a doctor now, but my older brother doesn't seem interested at all. He has never had the highest respect for doctors or mental illness. He treats it like it's fake. When our baby sister was diagnosed with an eating disorder when she was 19, he just cracked a joke about her wanting a doctor's note so she could eat more. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for making a crass joke to make my father-in-law uncomfortable? We were visiting my wife's parents. We don't visit at all. My wife doesn't have a good relationship with them. My father-in-law pulled me aside and told me that he had something to tell me. He told me that I should reconsider the marriage because my wife is straight and she had never dated a woman before me. He also said my wife has always loved the finer things in life and she married me because she couldn't find a rich man. He said this with absolute sincerity. I didn't know what I could say to that, and I ended joking that if she is straight, she's really great at faking orgasms. He was very embarrassed by it and dropped the subject. My wife is upset with me because she hated that I talked to her parents about our sex life, and her mum found it really inappropriate and is telling her to be more respectful. I feel like an asshole because I didn't really defend her properly and embarrassed her instead. Now in the comments, This one is tough, but I'm leaning more towards not the asshole. Specifically because your wife's parents are okay with bringing up uncomfortable topics, money, previous taste in gender, and basically calling their daughter a gold digger with the "she's with you because she couldn't find a rich man," until that topic is something that shocks them. They deserve to be uncomfortable. Maybe then they'll stop meddling in stuff that is none of their business. I want to say not the asshole because I can relate, and if your wife weren't involved, that would be my judgment, but I'm leaning you're the asshole / everyone sucks here on the principle that however satisfying for you, and however much your in-laws definitely deserved it, you brought up your wife's orgasms to her father without her knowledge or prior consent. I think that she gets the final say here, and she's saying that you're the asshole, so that's where I'm going to land as well. So yeah, as much as I agreed that he deserved it for bringing up her sexuality in the first place, your wife didn't deserve to have her sexual conduct used as a weapon against her father. You're the asshole implies the in-laws are not assholes. Everyone sucks here sounds more fitting to your call because there is no way the in-laws aren't assholes in this situation, which I'd back, because OP upset her wife with her retort. Everyone sucks here. Your father-in-law is homophobic and you disrespected your wife's privacy to her father. You made her the butt of the joke, and now she has to suffer the embarrassment for it. You owe her an apology. Everyone sucks here, meaning everyone but your wife. Your father-in-law is of course an asshole. Your mother-in-law is for going after your wife instead of you and her husband, and you for embarrassing your wife. Not the asshole. I was going to vote the other way, but I will say that will probably stop him from talking to you again about your sex life. He was the one to bring it up though, plus he disrespected you and your relationship. I almost never disagree with the comments here, but I am going to have to today. For me, it's irrelevant what the father deserved. What is relevant here is her wife. So yeah, as much as I agree that he deserved it for bringing up her sexuality in the first place, her wife didn't deserve to have her sexual conduct used as a weapon against her father. She's the one whose orgasms you brought up publicly without her prior knowledge or consent. So if she says you're the asshole, that's where my vote is going. But yeah, F her dad. Yikes. And now onto the update. I was the asshole. I was judged not the asshole, but most comments were telling me that my father-in-law deserved it, but all the everyone sucks here comments were focusing on how I hurt my wife, and I don't care about my father-in-law. But I care greatly about my wife. I apologized to her again, and she said she wasn't ready to talk about it yet. I was worried for a few days, but she opened up. She told me that she wasn't really upset with me. She was embarrassed, but she knew that it would always end up this way with me saying something stupid after being pushed into a corner. She told me she is tired of dealing with them and their drama. She said she had been trying to make it work, but they were shitty and they didn't care about us. She said she is going low contact with them, and all they did was bring hurt and sadness into her life. She cried a lot, but she said that she was firm and she was not going to stay in touch with them or visit them until and unless they accept our relationship, P. Now in the comments, I'm really happy with the outcome, OP. You and your wife should be a team, always. I'm glad you and your wife have such great open communication. Sometimes it's hard to figure out the exact reason for an emotion or who it's really directed at, and your wife was mature enough to step away from the situation, look into it, figure out how to explain her feelings to you, and told you. Sorry her family is crap, but cheers to your relationship. Can I thank you and your wife for being as sweet and open with communication as you are? I'm glad that you worked things out, and I'm sorry your in-laws can't wrap their heads around your wife's sexuality. Yeah, I don't think you were an asshole in the first place. Her father was, and in an awkward moment, you blurted something inappropriate. It happens. Oh Lord, it happens. And I'm really glad that you worked it out. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, as that's where I have to wrap it up. If you enjoyed, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Hope you have a lovely day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.